All right, Renfield. Renfield is a movie about Dracula's assistant who wants to break free from being a slave to Dracula, where he has to go out and kill people, bring him the dead bodies to Dracula so that Dracula can live on for eternity and put on his evilness throughout the world. But he is a good man inside, and he wants to break free of that so that he can become a normalized person. And so the movie is more based on that journey, that switch between being on the slave side into breaking free and becoming free, to becoming a regular human in the world. And so this movie is a bit of a mixed bag, and I'm going to talk about that later on. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you my yays, the things that I like about, the nays, the things that I don't, and then finally I'm going to give you my recommendation. Starting off with the things that I liked about this movie are the fact that there are moments up here that is absolutely fun to watch. It's funny at times, although it's not a real comedy. It is funny at times. And it's a really stylized look. You know, it's got this feel, almost kind of like a John Wick, with the colors and the way it's focused onto the characters and the way the camera moves around, and it looks really good. But I think their true standouts here is the performances of a few of the characters. The Nicks here, Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage. Nicholas Hoult is fine in this movie. He's got a swagger, he's got an intelligence to him. It's kind of like an English butler kind of character that he plays. But the real standout here is Nicolas Cage, who plays Dracula. His performance is really interesting. You know, whenever he's on screen, he steals the show. He's a scene stealer absolutely every time, without a doubt. Dracula. Okay, the character Dracula is really the standout in this film. Another character I just want to mention just real quick. I don't know how to say her name. I'm not even going to give it a try, but I'll throw it up on screen so that you can see it. This is I think just the nature of this actress or this actor is kind of menacing. So she plays a secondary villain in this movie, and I don't even know if she has to try very hard. I can't even say anything about her acting, except for her presence is very menacing. The way she sounds, the way she talks. Now the other thing is about this storyline. It involves a therapy group. And they utilize this group in many clever and interesting ways. This group helps the main character flesh out his emotions and his ideas and how he's thinking. He goes here, and this is where you feel what he's thinking. In most movies, right, you have a secondary character, a supporting character who supports the main character. But in this case, the therapy group for support is the support that he is getting. They, as a whole, they are the secondary character that helps him along. We do have an actual secondary character, which is played by Awkwafina. We're going to get to that in just a moment. In fact, why not just get to it now? Here are the things that I don't like about this movie. So, Awkwafina. There's nothing wrong with her herself in this film. Her storyline is so uninteresting, and it has a side story involving some mobsters because she's a cop. And yes, that story ends up intertwining with the main story that we want to see from Nicholas Hoult and Dracula. But overall, I find that part just uninteresting. So when it's not interesting, I just want to get back to Dracula, is basically the point here. So unfortunately, that's part of the mixed bag that I'm talking about. So as I get into my recommendation, like, this movie is not really clear on who it's for. It's definitely not for children. Like, the action in this movie is really cool, but there are some action scenes at some points that are very aggressive and very, there's the killing in here is pretty brutal, and it makes sense. They make it make sense in the sense that this is what a monster would do if a monster was like a real monster. Then it goes into a super silliness where it's like no longer realistic. So in some moments, this movie has some realistic ideas, and then it flops to unrealistic. It's got some funny humor, but then it's not funny anymore. It's very interesting, but then it's really not interesting at all. But I think what they were trying to do with this movie is try to make some sort of cult classic. I feel like that's where they were going. It's kind of got a cult classic feel to it, where there is just enough shock that people will gravitate to that and be memorable. Or perhaps the movie is so bad that people are going to love it. But it is a good movie if you wanted to just pass the time. Maybe if you're sitting with some friends and you just want to have a bit of a fun time, because it can be a fun time. It's definitely fun at certain moments, but in the end, it's not that big of a deal. It's unfortunate that the only thing that's memorable is this performance by Nicolas Cage, and I'm kind of rooting for him in that aspect, where it's like I want to see a good Nicolas Cage movie, because I grew up in the 90s where he was rocking it, and I find that over the years he's just playing whatever part he can get. And so this one comes along and he hits it out of the park in a movie that's kind of fine. So I'm going to give this movie a bit of a pass. I don't think it was that interesting. It has some good action moments. It's got some good humor at times. It's got some interesting points in here. And I think actually there is very good message in here. And they do it very well, where the message of being self-aware, to be self-accepting, and to change into a positive, change who you are in a positive way, to bring positive change in your life. This is a message that is throughout the film, but not in your face. So they do a really good job on that. So if you like what you see here, then please be sure to leave a like, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, enjoy life. Take care, and I wish you well.